Be glad he's on your team for the time being. Hello, friends, and welcome to Figure Study, where we are back in the G1 pool with G1 Doubledealer and Knock and Scar. Doubledealer is actually the G1 figure that kinda got me back into G1, which happened all of 3 months ago, I think. Yeah, never owned a Doubledealer in my life, and I kept seeing videos of this figure, and I really liked what it did. I liked the mechanics of it, I liked the aesthetics of it. So I decided I was going to try and track one down, and I did actually get one off eBay for not cheap, but cheaper than it usually goes for in this condition. It was missing some stickers, but other than that, came with both his Power Masters, came with the missile, came with the that thing. So couldn't really complain. And I did get the repro label set for this guy and apply it. So the stickers on him are not the stock stickers, but the repro label set is designed to basically just be a replacement for that, hence why this is not in an enhanced edition video, because it's just how he's supposed to look with the stickers. The only real issue that this guy has, aside from one leg, which we'll talk about when I transform him, is the joint here for the rocket thing. The ratchet's a bit wobbly, so it kind of wants to aim down a bit, and you can kind of angle it up, which is okay, but really it's more if you fold up one of the Power Masters and plug them in there, then that kind of keeps the head platform thing up a little bit better and more level. I wish it sat like that, but it doesn't affect any of the other modes really, so it's not a huge deal. It's just a little bit of a bummer, but a minor bummer. Anyway, yes, Doubledealer. Oh, this guy is cool. This guy's very, very cool. We'll actually start by looking at his Power Masters. So, let's start with Scar. The Scar is basically Ratbat if he turned into an engine, I guess. I don't know anything about the characters. I just know the toys, and the only reason I know the names of the Power Masters is because I looked it up on TF Wiki before doing this video. But yeah, Scar is a pretty nicely detailed little bat thing with a cyborg torso. And I don't know what else to say. He's got kind of some bare bones detailing in the wings there for the little bones that go across the wings. There's some nice robotic detailing in the torso section. The head is appropriately monster batty. And then along the back, he's got the cybernetic detailing on the wings and this obvious engine look. If this weren't a G1 figure, I'd want to go in and do some detailing in there, but I think I'm going to leave it with just the stickers. But to transform him, all you do is fold in the wings, and that's it. And you need to fold the wings in a certain order because you can kind of see they sit slightly differently. Like if you fold this one in first, it kind of angles in more, and this kind of angles out. So you want to fold in this wing first, then this wing, and then they lay over top of each other more flush. And that's it. Now he's an engine, and it looks like a robotic engine. Knock is much more humanoid, and this seems to be more what the Power Masters change into for the most part throughout the series. Of the pictures that I've seen, and the only other one that I have, they're pretty much all humanoid with the exception of Scar and maybe one or two others. And they all have kind of the same idea for a body where it's like this kind of awkward humanoid thing that can only move their legs out, can only move the arms forward. But, it's G1. Not entirely sure why they decided to give Knock fishnets, but whatever. It's not a bad little robot man. It's got some nice detailing in there. Some of it's lost in the colors, and I'm not super into the gray and red color combination here. The blue is nice, though. But yeah, it's fine for what it is. Almost looks like he's got Wheelie's helmet on. Yeah, it's not a whole lot to say. It's sort of like looking at a Titan Master. They're just tiny people that serve one very specific purpose. Transforming him is just to bring out the legs and then bend them up and then bring down the arms. One of the things to be careful of, and I learned this not the hard way, but I did make the mistake the first time I tried to transform him, and thankfully nothing broke, You want to make sure that these arms are out of the way when you bring the legs up, because as you can see, they can actually sit kind of in the way of that hinge. You don't need to like pull them up like forward, but you want to make sure they're out of the way so that when you hinge this up, those fists don't get bumped, because that could pop off an arm at best. Well, it could do nothing at best, but it could pop off an arm or it could snap something. So yeah, just something to be aware of. And turning him around here, he's got his engine mode, and this seems like a little bit more of a cohesive engine than Scar's engine, because Scar's kind of like a bunch of cybernetic stuff and then this 3-cylinder block on top, whereas Nock has actual engine-y looking bits around the entire thing and has kind of a more cohesive looking engine. And now we come to Doubledealer himself, and he is this cool-looking missile truck. I actually really, really like this. It hides the robot bits surprisingly well, too. Like, yeah, you've got some weirdness going on here with the wings and what probably are obviously legs, but not that obvious, I don't think. It hides the head. Like, seriously, looking at this, you wouldn't necessarily know that his head's right there. Like, it is right there. But even when you're angling it up like this, it actually is covered pretty well just because of the geometry involved. It's got some nice detailing, both molded and sticker-wise. I really like this red on slightly greenish, bluish. I don't know what color this would qualify as, but I like this color combination right here with that red and the whatever this is. And I like that all of the windows are in that color. It's a very, very nice look. And the yellow for the headlight stickers also works pretty nicely with this grayish, bluish, greenish, whatever. Along the back, it's a little bit more crammed with obvious robot bits like his fists, but still, I think overall this works out pretty darn well. And then the missile is a missile with some nice kind of tech detailing around, and got a little bit of a sticker there, and this little panel on the back that if you want, you can sit the Power Masters in, one of the Power Masters. You can just kind of plug them in there. Like we'll plug in Nock, so you can see just kind of sits back there. And the other one, Scar, we will plug in down here. And that just goes in there and clips in, and that's that. And you can see with the Power Master in, it keeps the missile a little bit more straight. Typically, when I have them in vehicle mode, I try to keep one of the Power Masters in there and then the other one up here, so that way it just kind of keeps everything contained and also keeps the missile pointing straight. And with that, let us do some size comparisons. Actually, I should take these out. One sec. Should have thought to have the Power Masters in their non-engine modes for size comparisons. That's on me. All right. I think Nock will be okay there. I think Nock will be okay there. And now, here is Doubledealer's missile truck mode with a standard deluxe, as well as the two Power Master guys, so you can see pretty decent size. And it's one of those things where I feel like me personally, and probably a lot of other people, tend to imagine that G1 figures were bigger than they actually are. At least that's how I tend to do it. And it always surprises me when some are bigger than I thought they were and others are smaller than I thought they were. But Doubledealer, he's a good size. Overall, I will say, when I got him in hand, he is a little bit smaller than I thought he would be. But that's more just because of how my mind built him up. Here he is with my original G1, had him for 30 plus years, Bumblebee. And I mean, Bumblebee's a mini-bot, so of course he's smaller. And here he is with the duck tank. Alright, so let's put these Power Masters back where I had them before I awkwardly had to remove them for the size comparisons, because we're going to do his first mode. Well, I don't know if it's his first mode technically. I don't know what order these are supposed to go in, but for those who are unfamiliar with Doubledealer, Doubledealer actually does have two different modes based on which Power Master is in place. And one mode is a Decepticon, one is an Autobot. That's really interesting to me, actually. We're going to do his Decepticon mode first, hence why Scar is in there. So we're going to pop out the missile here, and this will split. Yeah, that's tough. So that splits. And this we're just going to leave as is. So move that off to the side. And now I'm going to flip them over, and putting Scar in here unlocks the sides here. So that is what allows us to flip these bits around. And with those flipped around, we can angle these down and pull out his little feet. Same thing over here. Angle down and feet. There we go. Then these wings will fold out, and these are like Scar's wings, where they have to fold in a certain order, because if you try doing it with this wing on top, then it's not going to overlap right. And you can kind of see when looking at it straight on that one sits differently than the other. It's a little bit awkward, but like you don't really notice that much when you're looking at the figure. Anyway, I'm going to fold that back, and there is his vulture thing head that just swings out and rotates. Close that up and bring that down, and that little, I need to hit this with a hairdryer or something to make sure that Reaper label stays down. There we go. I've seen different ways of doing this, sometimes with the gun pegged here and the and this bit pegged back here. I've seen the entire missile pegged back here and other things like that. I'm going with what I think is the official mode, but I could be wrong. And if I am, you can let me know, but it's not going to change things really, because I already recorded and released the video. But I plug the gun back here, and the missile will tuck right in here and just clip back in, facing the other way under here. And so it's kind of like he's got some kind of payload or something. And just angle him a little bit more so he's not resting on what could be his tail. And there we have Doubledealer in his Decepticon mode, which is like some kind of vulture, raven, bird of prey thing. And I gotta say, this is interesting. It's definitely different. As far as I'm aware, there aren't too many triple changers out there that have a beast mode as one of their alternates. Like just one of their alternates, where, this guy's like regular vehicle, well, not regular vehicle, but like, earth-based vehicle, robot, which is pretty standard for Transformers, but then also a beast mode. And it looks a little weird, a little awkward. I know some people like to make jokes about the missile down there, but like I said, for me, it just seems more like he's carrying a payload. And it kind of bulks out his form a bit more, so I kind of enjoy that. It looks like if he were flying along, this would be something that he would just drop to mess up some Autobots. And then he also has the gun up top to mess up some Autobots. And yeah, I like the different colors that come out here too. Like you've got more of this bright turquoise, a little bit more red in the beak there, and a lot of this purple that you did not see any of that purple, which I guess we could call a type of Decepticon purple, in the vehicle mode. And that's cool. I like how this comes together. And it's a pretty convincing bird mode, all things considered. As weird and awkward and old as it is, it's more convincing than Miniforce X Raybot's bird mode. So yeah, very cool. Has a pretty nice wingspan there. In terms of new detailing, get that out of the way so we can look at this. There's a little bit on the back here, which has this nicely textured kind of feathered, layered approach, which does look good. And the wings have some nice layered, feathered texture in there as well, and like a little bit of a rough texture along the top there. It comes across as wings. It's, I think more than anything, if you're looking at it from a distance, just the cut along here is what really makes these read as wings, because you're not seeing a ton of that texture from a distance, but it gets the job done. You also have some of that feathering effect on the bird legs here, which is cool. And I also like that you don't see this unless you're in the bird mode, so that detail actually hides away really nicely when you're in any of the other modes. That's cool and surprisingly complex for a G1 toy. Then he's got his little two-toed bird talon feet. They're a little bit thin, but they actually get the job done. And again, that's more of that purple that you don't see anywhere else. And then the head is this haggard, jowly, vulture-y looking thing that has teeth for some reason. And it's definitely something that makes me think of a Decepticon. At that soulless black eye like a shark. A little bit, just a little bit. It's hard to make out, but there's a little bit of robot technical detail at the base of the neck there, those 3 lines, and then that kind of continues into this weird kind of cyber jaw thing. But then the rest is pretty organic looking. It's an interesting mix. And also I have to say, the turquoise and the red here work really nicely together. This is a little weird that the bird has teeth in its beak, but it's also a robot, so it can kind of get away with it. It doesn't have to be like an earth bird, really, because it's not an earth bird. Anyway, let's get him back here so that we can start on those size comparisons. Here's Doubledealer's Decepticon mode with a Standard Deluxe. Here it is with that adorable... move things in a little bit more. Here he is with that adorable little G1 Bumblebee Minibot. And here's the bird missile truck with the duck tank. Alright, so now that we've done the Decepticon thing, it's time to do the Autobot thing. So we will remove the payload from the underside here. Put that off to the side. Remove the gun. And this will unpeg. And put that off to the side. I'm going to take Scar out of here. Scar. I'm going to take Knock out of here. And put that off to the side. Put Knock off to the side. And then we can work on changing this back into a missile truck, basically. So rotate the head, fold it up into that cavity, close it back up, close up the wings. And again, these have to fold in a certain order. So you want to do this one first because that sits a little bit closer to the body, and then this will lay on top of that. And you can always tell when you got it right because it sits flush. Then fold up the feet, fold up the legs, and rotate those back around. Same deal here. Oh, also on the front of the legs, there's this little sticker detail. That's nice. Fold this up, fold it in, and we are back in missile truck mode. Now we want to move this out of the way and remove Scar. And this is a little bit... not a huge fan of this. This clips in well, but it clips in a little too well, so it's kind of scary sometimes to try and get him out of there. And this is an old toy, so I want to try and be careful. These bits here are what they clip into. So I've tried pushing on them, and that sometimes seems to help, and other times it doesn't. But basically just got to carefully work it and pull it out. And in case you're trying to do this yourself, it's these bits on the sides here are what clip in here. So that's why I was kind of coming at it from an angle to get it out that way. And you can see that there's some nice molded detail in the little cavity that the Power Masters sit as well. And it also kind of looks like underwear for some reason. Anyway, bringing Knock back in, we're going to plug him into Scar's spot. And just for now, we'll fold things back up a little bit to get them out of the way. With Knock in there, we can pull out the entire front section of the vehicle mode, which we originally left alone. Split it and rotate this around to give him a leg. And this is the one issue with this particular figure that I have that is a little bit concerning, but so far has held up, is this. You can see it's a little bit wiggly, whereas this one, not at all. So I'm not too sure what's going on here, and I'm not sure if opening it up and trying to adjust anything will help. So basically, I've just been kind of careful with it by holding it towards the base and just carefully rotating it. And that ratchet feels a little bit scarier than this one too. So yeah, hopefully it'll be fine. If not, at the very least, the base robot figure is actually pretty cheap. So if this breaks and I need to get a replacement body, it's not going to be that difficult. It's the Power Masters and the accessories that are the real money sink with this toy. All right, so with the legs done, we can finish the upper body. We want to hinge these out, and these are on these red double hinges here. So just hinge those back and fold down the arms, revealing the Autobot logos. This will hinge all the way back to properly reveal the face. I love how that works and how it just sits along this little hinge section here that the Decepticon head hinged over. We bring in this piece that was just kind of sitting on the back of the missile, turn it around this way, and this will clip over the little armature here. And sit right there and give him a chest plate. And that completes the robot. We still have the rest of his accessories and Scar to deal with. So this can plug onto either shoulder. Personally, I prefer to plug it onto the opposite shoulder of whatever hand I'm going to put this in. But like, you can put it in this hand, you can put it in this hand. I prefer to put it in this hand. It also has a peg, or a peg hole, so if you wanted to, you could give him dual shoulder thingies. And you could put this back together and give him like one large missile gun. And this also has that peg there, so if you wanted, you could have him dual wielding his bits there. But personally, and from what I've seen, like, I think the missile on the shoulder and the back part in the hand as a gun is kind of the official thing, and I think that looks better. And lastly, the little Scar, he plugs in right there. So it's just that peg hole, plug him in. You could do it around this way if you want. I prefer to do it up this way because when you're looking at him from the front, it keeps things from showing down there. Otherwise, you kind of get that weirdness going on. That's a little bit strange, but it gets him out of the way. And there we have G1 Doubledealer in robot mode, and oh my goodness, I love this figure. As I said at the beginning of the video, I really like what this toy does. I like the Power Master gimmick. I like the fact that he's a triple changer. I like how completely different the three modes are. And aesthetically, I think he just looks fantastic. Even as a simplified G1 figure, there's just something about this robot mode that I've tried to figure it out, and I still can't quite put my finger on it, but there's just something about this robot mode that looks really, really cool to me. It hits some kind of aesthetic button that I didn't even know I had. The silhouette is actually pretty darn nice, especially for G1. The proportions aren't that bad. The head actually sits in a reasonable position. Looking at you, G1 Dreadwind. I am actually looking at G1 Dreadwind. He's kind of off to the side there in my cabinet. But Doubledealer's robot mode looks amazing. Color breakup is really cool. I like that you don't have the purple anymore. Now you get more of that turquoise. And I mean, there was some of that turquoise in the Decepticon mode as well, but here it's more of it. And more of the gray. This is something about the breakup here, and I kind of like how you've got the, like with the way the hinges are red and the details going on down here. Like, you've got the block of blue in the center, the red on the sides. You got the block of blue in the center, the red on the sides. It's almost like this weird kind of mirror where his chest is... It's not an exact, obviously it's not exact, but it's like his chest is actually evocative of Nox's Power Master mode as it's sitting right there in his stomach, which is just interesting to me. And I also think it's interesting how his feet, his legs, rather than doing the typical thing of just folding out and that being it, or folding out and the waist rotates, they turn 90 degrees rather than 180. And the sides of the vehicle mode become the fronts of his legs. That's, I don't know, it's just really interesting to me. And these little bits, these little nubbins that were barely noticeable, barely even a thing that registers in vehicle mode or in the Decepticon mode, are now his feet. And that totally works. It works as these big robot boots. It's very cool. There's so many subtle things that this guy does that are just really, really cool. You've got some nice molding in there, which, I mean, this is all the same molding from the vehicle mode, but now because of the way it's oriented, it comes off looking more like robot boots. You've got some details revealed here with the robot legs, like the hips and thighs, midsection there. Nock actually makes a pretty decent six-pack looking stomach area. And he's got some kind of details in there as well. And yeah, his torso is blocky, but the way that it's kind of designed and the colors used, you can kind of ignore these bits on the side here, and really it makes it look like he's a bit more tapered in at the top there. But then, of course, kind of flares out awkwardly at the sides. But still, it works. And this chest plate also looks really good. with these stickers and the little bits of detailing in there. And this tiny, tiny little tech detail right on the side there, just for a little bit of asymmetry. The arms are nice, though. Look at this. What do you know? Everyone who complains about Transformers being hollow now, this 30-year-old toy that everyone loves has massive gaps in the tops of the forearms in robot mode. Just saying, people need to freaking chill out and remember that the G1 toys were not perfect. The back half of the missile actually works pretty well as a gun, too. They molded these little spots in here that these don't connect into the back of the front of the missile bit. These are just there to look like the barrel of a gun, and that's cool, and it works. It's a little bit awkwardly shaped, with this kind of block kind of sticking up out of the top and forward, but it still totally works. It's very cool. On the topic of these arms, not the hollowness, I promise. I'm done ranting about that. On the topic of these arms, first off, some more nice tech detail in there that's revealed once you, scar popped off. Some nice tech detail that's revealed once you move the forearm out of the way. I've seen pictures, and people have said that you can hinge the arms forward. Like, in addition to the elbows, supposedly you can rotate them here. That is not a thing that this guy can do. At least not this one. Not the one that I have. It may be something different in other figures, but here, no. I don't understand why that's a thing that other figures, that other double dealers can do, because I've seen the pictures. I know that it can be done somehow, but I can't understand how with this figure, because like this bit here is like, you can see where it separates, so it looks like it should rotate, but this is screwed in. So unless you remove that screw, I can't see how you could possibly start hinging the arms forward. I don't really, like, that may be how you do it. Maybe I just need to force it, which I'm not going to do. But yeah, I'm not big on the idea of removing screws to enable articulation on a 30-plus-year-old toy. So we're not going to do that. As for the shoulder missile, it's the same thing that we saw before, just, it's the front half of it. But it looks cool up there. I always kind of enjoy the shoulder missile or shoulder launcher things that some robots do in Transformers. And the head is interesting. I know the head is supposed to be like this. You can see how it's molded with the helmet around there and the little like front face flap things there. But because of the way the toy had to be made, you've got these bits hanging off the side, sort of like backwards Mickey Mouse ears. The thing is, like, I know that this is how the robot is supposed to look, but I'm actually into this weird bit kind of hanging off behind his head. I don't know, something about it that just works for me. The actual molding itself is nice. Some nice venting details along there. It's a little bit simple, but, it's G1. And that face is very, like, well, okay then. Like, that's just his expression. But it is interesting how there are certain details that are lined in there, like that kind of line going around his mouth that almost makes it look like he's got some kind of eye mask on, like he's going to Carnival or something like that. Just the way the lines are done. I mean, obviously it's one big blue face with what could be a double chin back there, and these bright red eyes that pop really hard against that face too. I really like that. And the blue face, I mean, it's a bit samey when you're going straight down into this same blue chest plate, but it works. I keep saying that with this toy, but it does work. There's something really cool about it. Something very appealing that I can't quite put my finger on. And then around the back, he has surprisingly no real kibble. Like, he's got the wheels and the wings folded up, but like they're folded up along his back. That's very out of the way. Really, the only thing that's in the way here as kibble is Scar there. If we move Scar out of the way, you can see there's actually some nice detail along the backs of the thighs and the backs of the legs, which you would only see in robot mode and only if you're looking at them from the back. So that's cool and appreciated. There's just something neat about that. Put Scar in there again. And the joke I have with Diana when I bring this guy out is that instead of a fanny pack, he's got a fanny bat. Anyway, G1 Doubledealer is very cool. I definitely dig this robot. Okay, so let's do those size comparisons. So here we have G1 Doubledealer in his robot mode with a standard deluxe, and as I said, he's a little bit smaller than I initially expected him to be, but he's still a really good size. He's clearly no slouch in the size department. Here he is, towering over G1 Bumblebee like some kind of friendly kaiju. I mean, again, Bumblebee is a mini-bot. Yeah, that's a pretty decent size discrepancy. And here he is with the duck tank. So yeah, that's going to do it for G1 Doubledealer. As I said, this figure is really cool. I love what it does. I love the gimmicks involved. I love the aesthetics. The robot mode, for a reason that I still can't quite figure out, really appeals to me. Really, if this was the only Power Master I ended up getting, I'd be happy. But there are still plenty others that I do want. Anyway, what do you all think of G1 Doubledealer? Is this something that you've never really gotten to check out before, or something that you had or still have? Do you have a preference when it comes to a mode, whether it's the missile truck, the vulture thing, or the robot? And how do you feel about the Power Master gimmick? Because I think it's a neat idea. I'm a little bit like, I don't know, when it comes to the fact that you have to use them to unlock things. I like the gimmick in theory. In practice, more than anything, I'm just kind of, I don't know about it, because I just worry that they're easy to break if you're not paying attention or if you don't know how it's supposed to work. But as long as you know what you're doing, as long as you know how it's supposed to work, it's totally fine. And for those of you who are familiar with all the Power Masters, or God Masters as they are called in Japan, which one's your favorite? And which ones do you think I should keep an eye out for? Because I do have Power Master Optimus Prime. I don't have the God Bomber armor, so I don't have the God Jinrai stuff, but I'm not really interested in that. But I've got Prime, I've got Dreadwind and Darkwing, though I still need to get their Power Masters. And I just very recently got my hands on Getaway, but again, need the Power Master. I'm really interested in the one whose name I can't remember right now, but is like this kind of yellow and blue dune buggy sports car looking thing that has a really interesting transformation. And also, somehow, I would absolutely be down for an Overlord, but I don't have that kind of money. So if I ever did get an Overlord, it would probably be like me getting the components one by one over the course of months or even years. Just little by little putting them together. But those are the ones that are on my radar. Are there any other ones I should be looking out for? Whatever your thoughts, feel free to chime in down below. I always enjoy hearing from you all. And while you're at it, also feel free to like, subscribe, or if you're feeling generous, you could buy me a coffee. Any of those things would make me a happy Rob. And remember, art is more than meets the eye.